Okay, we have the solution here to exercise 1. So just a couple of things to make sure that we've laid it out right. First of all, we want to label it. We're going to be doing an awful lot of these questions, so we need to make sure that we can keep track of which question is which. So this is exercise 1 of trading account, so I've got the heading trading account there. A couple of things just to be aware of. Remember back in primary school, you were usually told by your maths teachers to add up the units under the units, the tens under the tens. It makes it easier to do your maths, especially if you're doing this stuff on paper. You don't want to find that you make an adding or subtracting mistake. So I'm going to align all these numbers to the right so that the units are under the units, the tens under the tens. It makes it easier to do your maths. Anyway, having a look at this question, we work out that this business made a profit buying and selling goods of 51. We sold 112 worth of goods and we have a cost of 61. We had to move into the middle column to work out that cost, and we noticed we took away our closing stock at the end because there's some goods that we bought, we spent money buying them, but those goods, we still have them at the end, so we haven't sold them, so they're not included in cost of goods sold. That's why I'm subtracting them. Now, a question, if we have a look at this, and we look at the main cost in here, we'll see that the main cost is purchases. But businesses spend money on lots of other things other than just buying goods. So we have to include all of the other things we spend money on. So the main thing we spend money on, which is goods, we're going to call them costs. Anything else we spend money on, we're going to call them expenses. So down the bottom here, I'm going to have less expenses. And I'm going to include in here any of the other things that we decide we want to spend money on. Now, I'm going to underline expenses for the simple reason being that expenses are a heading, a bit like cost of goods sold, and that's why that there was underlined. Okay, so what I'll have here is I'm going to have my main profit, I'll add up all my expenses and take it away, and I'll have a new profit. So to separate the two of them, I'm going to call this profit gross profit. You may remember from pay slips that you did in first year, you've got gross profit with money before deductions. So these expenses are the deductions, and then we'll have a net profit down the end. So what might be included in expenses? So if we think for a second about anything else a business might spend money on. So let's just say we might spend money on insurance. We spend money on, let's say, wages. We may spend money on, let's say, repairs. Maybe we've got a bank overdraft. Remember, that's where the bank allows you to overspend, so you borrow money from the bank. So we have to pay interest on that. And there'll be lots of other things. With a business, you could have lots of different expenses. So what we'll do is we're going to be subtracting the expenses from the gross profit, and that's going to give us a net profit figure. So I'm going to put a line here across the bottom, which is going to be where I'll be subtracting. So I'm going to put a line there. So this line here would be underlined in red for you. Obviously I'm just doing it in black. I'll have my total figure there. I'll subtract it from my gross profit, get my net profit. And I'm going to add in this column, I'm going to add up all of my expenses, and I'll have a line, a total line underneath that. So if I put in some numbers here, so let's say insurance is €5,000, wages is 34,000, repairs is 1,200, let's say, and interest and overdraft is €580. Now, we got the same problem we had before. We could make a mistake. If you're doing this with calculators, or if you're doing this the old-fashioned way, you could end up making a mistake with the adding and subtracting. So I'm just going to make sure that these are all lined up, units under units, tens under tens. And we're going to add all these together. We're going to get a total number, which we're going to put over here. And that total expenses will be subtracted from our gross profit to get our net profit. So how do we add it up? Using Excel. So we'll go plus 5,000 plus 3,000. Then we just move our cursor up to the 2,000. We plus that, our 1,200, and then finally the interest figure. We add them together. There's our total expenses. We're going to subtract our total expenses from the gross profit above, and that's going to give us our net profit. So 51,035, take away that, and there is our net profit figure. So that's how you work out net profit. Homework that we're going to be doing in class the next day. I've given you net profit. So this is a different set of exercises which is going to go on to Edmodo, and I'm going to put this into the class notebook. I've given you the gross profit figure. So the top part of this question has already been done for you. So we're just doing the question here from gross profit down. So how do we do the question? The same way as we did the previous question. We start by laying out the words that we think the basic structure we're going to think about putting into it. And obviously we're going to be looking at an example like this. So we're going to have our word gross profit, then expenses, and then we read the question and find out what are the different expenses. The expenses may vary a little bit from question to question. We'll have all the expenses added up in the middle column. Total goes there, and we subtract it from our gross profit. So you're just doing this part here of the question. Okay, so I want you to have a go at doing for homework question 1 and be able to come into class and look at doing the rest of these exercises. Thank you.